there was something odd about me.
I kind of found my own niche that nobody else was really interested in.
It was a little bit weird.
That's definitely not normal.
It's one of the most wonderful feelings in the world for me.
100 years ago, Robert Ripley went on a quest to the farthest reaches of the globe in search of the extraordinary and unusual. Today, the adventure continues, searching for the world's most bizarre, astonishing secrets. On Ripley's. Believe it or not.
It's been said that oddity, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. It can be just as rare and just as mesmerizing. I'm Bruce Campbell, and when it comes to these curious cases, you just have to see it to believe it.
Most people aspire to carry out their daily chores as quickly and simply as possible. The 35-year-old Brooklynite Joseph Herscher isn't most people. He specializes in making everyday tasks even more complicated. Among his crazy inventions, the wine machine, the sandwich wrapper, and the Christmas tree decorator. But now he is attempting something far more complex. An elaborate cake server he hopes to debut for his fan base of over 1 million followers. But will it work?
Joseph is a very eccentric roommate. The toilet, the shower, the couch, the dining room table, anything really is up for grabs as a part of Joseph's machines.
I'm Joseph Herscher, and this is my apartment where I make my machine.
If you look at any of our furniture very closely, you'll see that there are holes, strange evidences of clamps or drills being used in any number of different ways. So it can be quite eccentric, yeah.
When I see a problem in my life, I just want to make it better. I want it to be more efficient. Coming out of the shower, you really need to leave the fan on for a good while to really get the steam out. And I'd always forget to turn it off. My roommates would nag me about it. I came up with a little invention that'll switch it off automatically after like 10 minutes.
The bathroom fan device was one of the more frustrating devices because you couldn't actually use the sink when you went in there.
Joseph has been tinkering ever since he was a child growing up in New Zealand.
This is going to allow me to eat potato chips while I'm typing on my laptop. I like that every object that we take for granted in our daily lives behaves in these very particular ways. And so I like exploiting those and using objects in ways they're not normally used.
Like this power nap device, so you can get some shut-eye without falling all over your neighbors. These days, Joseph is pushing his skill to the next level, creating fantastic and farcical machines in the spirit of cartoonist Rube Goldberg.
A Rube Goldberg machine, it usually does some simple task at the end, like turning the page of a book. But it does it in this very elaborate, convoluted way.
Goldberg was one of the most well-known cartoonists in the early 20th century.
My inventions are a bit ahead of their time. A shade fantastic, perhaps. All right, go on and say it. Downright screwy.
In fact, Goldberg played a huge role in Robert Ripley's career, helping Ripley land some of his first comic strips. Joseph has taken Goldberg's creations off the page and onto the internet, becoming a viral sensation in the process. His early attempts included the turkey stuffer.
Today I'm going to show you a super simple turkey recipe that gives you the most perfect, delicious bird every time.
The terrifying automatic hair cutter. And the lunch feeder. But for his most complex Rube Goldberg machine yet, Joseph is cooking up a clever way to serve himself dessert.
Recently I was having dinner, and I got to the end of this beautiful meal that I'd spent a long time preparing, but I was annoyed. Because I was ready for dessert, but I had to get up and prepare it and serve it, and it kind of ruined the flow of the meal. And it got me thinking, what if there was a more seamless approach to dinner and dessert?
The cake server is comprised of 51 steps that have taken Joseph 3 months to perfect.
It's the most difficult, technically challenging machine I've ever made.
Today is the machine's first full run.
So the machine starts with me knocking over a glass of orange juice, and I had this kind of crazy idea, what if you knocked over a glass and it rolled off the table and landed perfectly on a platform, and then all the juice gets funneled down a tube and goes back into the same glass. For one part of the machine, I need my phone to vibrate, so I'm using Skype to cool it. So I thought I could use a hammer to start the phone call. This was my friend's son, and she graciously let me borrow him for a couple of hours. I noticed that he loved smartphones, and if a smartphone was ringing, he ran up to it immediately. I want to teach you, when you pull this, look at the sound it makes. There you go. Grab it and pull it. Ah! I think that we're drawn to this idea of a playful machine. And I think it's because it becomes more about the process and the journey than the end goal. And I think these machines highlight suddenly the value in that journey. It's all about the journey.
And dessert is served, though not without a casualty. But even at the cost of a laptop, Joseph and his millions of viewers are still thrilled with his creation.
Things constantly go wrong, and bounce in ways I didn't expect, and break in ways I didn't expect, and it's a nightmare. But when it all works beautifully, it's one of the most wonderful feelings in the world for me. And like that is why I keep coming back to it.
And with more than 8 million views, most people agree this Kiwi's crazy machines really take the cake.
Joseph has figured out a way to have fun and games with the laws of physics. 1,000 miles south, there's another man whose skills leave people mesmerized. But he doesn't need props to show off his curious abilities. It's just him and his furry little friend.
My name is Christian Stoynev. I'm a hand balancer, and I do a hand balancing routine with my acrobatic chihuahua.
Christian Stoynev was destined to be on stage.
I'm a fifth-generation performer on my mom's side. My dad was also a circus performer. Together, they actually did a trapeze act. I started performing when I was 5 years old, doing a kind of balancing ladder act with my dad. And at the age of 10 is when I started hand balancing.
By 13, Christian was already wowing audiences. But he was not exactly fulfilled.
If you would ask me what would have been my dream career, it would have been playing sports. My idols were basketball players. That's really where my heart was at. But because I grew up in the circus, kind of tutored, I never got the chance to really play on the team.
He never had the opportunity for normal friendships with other kids.
It's hard to make those friends that you kind of grow up with. I think definitely not having kids my age on the show played a part in me wanting a pet. I just wanted a companion, so my parents got me Scooby.
It was not long before Scooby joined the family business too.
We would teach him little tricks around the house, like to sit down. We were curious, could he like jump through this hoop? We just started taking Scooby with me when I would go start practicing handstands. We would like put a treat like on the bottom of my feet, and he would try to look for it and try to find a way to get up there.
The bond between humans and canines is older than history itself. 20,000 years ago, before the Egyptian pyramids or the Roman Colosseum, human hunter-gatherers bred the most loyal and friendliest wolves with each other. Over the generations, these wolves evolved into Canis familiaris, the modern dog, in all its many shapes and sizes. Bringing Scooby into the act lifted Christian's spirits, but he still wanted more.
There's a saying that most people run away to join the circus. I kind of ran away from the circus and went to school. I went to college at Illinois State University.
Illinois State is home to the Gamma Phi Circus, the oldest collegiate circus in the country. There, Christian thrived.
There was a different kind of feeling I got performing with my peers in college. You're getting this vibe around everybody else that they're all like, oh man, like this is a big deal. And so like you start feeling it too. I felt like a rookie again, just so much fun.
With new enthusiasm, Christian once again went out on the road with Scooby. But this time, he had a destination in mind.
I never lost hope, but I also didn't know how I would find my way to the NBA. I knew that there were already a couple acts that were kind of halftime acts. So I reached out to a lot of teams trying to become a performer. Next thing you know, I'm in Madison Square Garden. This is the Mecca of basketball.
Christian Stoynev and his dog Scooby left the circus behind and ran off to join the NBA.
I was really nervous. I didn't know how this was going to go. It was my one shot to be where I wanted to be.
And tonight is making his NBA debut. Please welcome Christian Stoynev.
But after years of living the dream, change is in the air.
When Scooby was about 10 years old, it was just getting a little harder. It just felt like the right time where it was probably better to kind of have Scooby stop performing. That way it was kind of ending on a high note while his tail was still wagging and he was loving it.
Scooby retired to the lap of luxury, leaving Christian without a partner.
And then we got Percy. He was a natural like Scooby and definitely loves the attention, that's for sure. I think he's full of himself a little bit. I mean, Percy definitely steals the show. And once he comes out, like, nobody wants to see me. It's all about Percy. I wouldn't want it any other way, that's fine. And even though now Scooby's retired, we still call it Christian and Scooby within the NBA circuit. I guess it's my way of returning the loyalty to Scooby. This dream of mine that we're living now wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for him.
Christian has made a name for himself balancing upside down. But what if your whole worldview was permanently flipped? There's a man in South America who knows exactly what that's like. Claudio Vieira de Oliveira was born with physical challenges, but it rarely slows him down. Sheer determination has propelled him to do things no one ever thought possible, with a very different perspective on the world.
I see everything normally. It is the world which is upside down.
Believe it? Or not. From day one, Claudio has defied the odds. Born with severe arthrogryposis, a birth defect of the joints and muscles, Claudio was not expected to live more than 24 hours. He's now 42 years old. In the 1970s, remote Monte Santo, Brazil was a tough place.
He was born at home. There were no hospitals here.
Claudio's mother was even tougher. Some people advised her to stop feeding her baby so he could die peacefully. She did the opposite, nurturing him just like any other child, and despite his physical limitations, the little boy thrived.
And here's Claudio. He deceived even doctors, right? He didn't die.
Claudio's condition presented a number of challenges. He had to eat and drink lying down. His hands barely functioned. For the first 8 years of his life, he had to be carried everywhere. But inside his constricted body, a passion was burning to adapt to the world no matter what it took.
One day he yelled, "Mom, I'm walking." From that day on, he began to move around on his knees.
Once Claudio got moving, he never slowed down. He excelled through high school and college, earning a degree in accounting. But Claudio's pursuits aren't purely academic. He has learned to operate electronics and heavy machinery.
Everything in my life is a major victory.
Now, he's facing a different kind of challenge, putting himself on stage in hopes of inspiring the world.
That was the moment, right there, when I said, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want.
It's not pleasant, but you learn how to ride the wave of adrenaline.
Maybe I should start to collect these things. It was a little bit weird.
Claudio Vieira de Oliveira lives with physical limitations that boggle the mind. But to his credit, he has never given up. Now he's facing his most daunting task yet, taking to the stage as a public speaker.
What I'm about to sow is a seed of inspiration. About 42 years ago, a child was born. A totally different child was born. We are human beings, and we are able to adapt to anything. People tell me I inspire them. To me, this is a wonderful gift.
The most unbelievable part of Claudio's speech was showing us that everything is possible.
In the beginning, I was afraid. I was embarrassed. But today, whether it's 5,000, 10,000, or a dozen people, it gives me strength, it makes me grow, and have more courage to keep going in the future.
Impalement, a punishment reserved for the worst criminals during history's darkest times. Curiously, there's one man in Las Vegas who's just jonesing to face the blade. Let's cut to him. Did you see what I did there?
My name is Andrew Stanton. I'm a professional sideshow artist.
Today, he will attempt to spin 5 times on the tip of a spear. Believe it or not. As a professional sideshow artist, Andrew Stanton makes a living inflicting pain on himself. It's a skill he's been perfecting since childhood.
I grew up in Hawaii, right on the ocean. So my whole family and my community, everybody's always surfing or going hiking or even cliff jumping and stuff like that. Extreme sports was just part of the culture.
But Andrew was hobbled by juvenile arthritis, an autoimmune disease that causes pain and swelling in the joints.
So the arthritis prevented me from doing a lot of stuff I wanted to do. Running, jumping, a lot of impact stuff. If I did too much activity, it would feel like hot burning knives in my knees. Just absolutely agonizing. I didn't want to take the medication, so I used what my mom taught me, learning how to breathe through the pain and block it out and go somewhere else.
What his mother did not anticipate was that he would use those same coping techniques to deliberately inflict harm on himself.
I kind of found my own niche, you know, something that I could excel at that nobody else was really interested in. When I found out how to start swallowing swords, I would bring a coat hanger to school. They didn't really like me to do that there.
But he soon found a place to perform in a friend's band.
I can't keep a beat to save my life, but they liked what I did, so I would swallow swords. I would even swallow some drumsticks, and I would do a handful of other things, putting tubes in my nose, nails in my nose. Just little stuff starting out.
Andrew went on to earn the Guinness World Records title for longest metal coil passed through the nose and out the mouth. He uses power drills to wind 2 metal coils into his nose and out his mouth. He also holds the record for the heaviest car pulled by only his eye sockets. Now, he's developing his most painful performance yet.
Over the years, I would do more research, and then I came across the Shaolin monks. I saw them doing the single-point spear. That was really impressive.
The monk's goal is to bend the spear. Andrew wanted to balance his whole body on the top of one.
Over the years, I would just use posts, and then I would find smaller and smaller posts and even like broomsticks. My first spear started out fairly blunt, and then I'd file it down, and I was able to go a little bit sharper, and kept working with that. You're dealing with a lot of sensation, suppressing a lot of pain, and it feels like you're getting punched in the stomach and the wind gets knocked out of you. It's not pleasant, but you learn how to ride the wave of adrenaline. You get through it, you conquer it,
Relying on the techniques he learned from his mother, Andrew enters an almost meditative state, slowing his blood pressure and heart rate to tolerate the pain. But just in case, he's asked a paramedic to supervise this dangerous stunt.
Andrew showed me his spear. I can attest that it's real metal. It's really as sharp as a knife. Just a slight miscalculation, and his body weight would drive that spear tip through that part of the body, causing what could be a mortal injury.
What if I crush my spleen or my liver, puncture an intestine, break the stomach walls?
Pushing that possibility to the back of his mind, Andrew readies himself for the stunt.
If you anticipate the pain, you're never going to get on it. You don't run away from it. You don't let the fear take you over. You just get on it, you accept it, and when you feel your pain tolerance start to go to a 9 or a 10, then just let go of it and keep going.
With the spear tip sharpened and in place, it all comes down to this moment. Will Andrew be able to pull off 5 spins on the top of the spear, or will it poke a hole right through his body?
Most of us are gutted by bad news. But if this guy gets gutted, it'll be national news.
I put the spear tip on my abdomen, on bare skin. Got to lean down on it, pushing the organs out of the way, relaxing the muscles. And then when I find the right spot on the front of my spine, I start putting a little bit more weight on it.
One, 2, 3, 4. And there's 5. It was just shocking that he didn't impale himself and have that whole spear up inside his belly.
Doing these stunts makes me feel alive. To travel the world and meet people I probably never would have. Going to Japan, going to Croatia, going to Finland, going all over the world. I feel very fortunate and lucky to be able to do what I want for a living.
Curiosity keeps us glued to unusual things, like a body splayed atop a spear. It may be painful to watch, but you just can't turn away. The same goes for one of the world's weirdest museums. Shocked or not, everyone's bound to take a peek. Come on, you know you want to. Haha.
Hjortur Sigurdsson runs a museum that would make the average family blush. But there's a lot to learn here, as long as you're willing to gaze upon 300 penises.
I always like to shock people a little bit.
Oh, the whale penises? Yeah, humongous.
We've never killed an animal just for the penis.
There's a wide range of specimens on display, but Hjortur won't rest until he's got his hands on the most elusive one yet. A human penis, preserved for eternity. Believe it or not.
My My name is Hjörtur Gísli Sigurðsson, and I'm the owner and curator of the Phallological Museum.
I just had to bring him to see what he was missing, or maybe what I was missing.
The museum was started in 1997 by Hjörtur's dad.
My father, Sigurður Hjartarson, started collecting these things when I was 10 years old. He and his friends were talking about, how in the old days in Iceland, every part of a slaughtered animal was used for something. The bull's penis was hung up and dried and used as a whip. That somehow sparked the idea, maybe I should start to collect these things. This became his passion, really. It was thought a little bit weird.
Young Hjörtur first jumped into the penis game in 1978 when a sperm whale washed up dead in his hometown, and his dad headed straight for the beach.
I went with him to, chop off the penis.
What Hjörtur chopped off was a flaccid penis, 12 inches in diameter and 8 feet in length.
He started with some 60 examples. People started bringing him more things. Now we've got 300 specimens, and it's still growing. The first year, 1,200 people. Last year we had 70,000 visitors. Some people get, a bit shy. Others, just keep giggling and can't stop. Then there are the scholars here the whole day, for hours and hours and hours, and reading every material.
I think the cheetah was really interesting. It's a really fast animal, but it has the smallest one and the slowest at mating. The irony in that.
Having moved from Húsavík to a bigger space in Reykjavik 7 years ago, there's a lot of room to expand.
It's very exciting when we get a new specimen. We've been getting some from Africa, a giraffe and some antelopes. They're donated. People just show up here sometimes, with something frozen or in a vacuum bag, People and ask, do you have this yet? There's a lot of penises out there we still have to get, a lot of specimens.
Indeed, and some would be tremendous gets, like the lowly barnacle, which boasts the largest penis-to-body ratio in the animal kingdom, the equivalent of a 6-foot-tall man with a 300-foot appendage. Male sharks have 2 penises, called claspers, that expand like umbrellas. Sadly, they can only use one at a time. But there's one very special item he's been waiting for nearly 2 decades. The penis of a human. Now it's finally here, and this little fella has a tale to tell.
If you have nausea, I feel like I have nausea. If you're gasping for air, I feel like I'm gasping for air.
Hjörtur Sigurdsson's museum captivates visitors with penises from 93 different species. But there's one new addition that hits a little close to home. Guys.
In our collection, we have one human specimen. He was 70-something when he donated on paper his phallus et scrotum after his death. 18 years, I think we waited. It's from an Icelandic man named Páll Arason, who died at 96 years of age. He used to joke that everything shrinks with old age, It was a bit shrunken. People knew who he was, and quite an attraction, when we unveiled him.
While the addition of human leftovers alarms some critics, most of the museum's visitors come away with a new appreciation of male genitalia.
The penis is this wondrous thing. It is a taboo subject even today. People who didn't come to visit just thought it was something pornographic or lewd or dirty or something, but it never has been like that.
Instead, maybe we should honor them for spreading life on Earth.
Body parts are bizarre enough, but there's one organ that is the most mysterious of all. Of course, I'm talking about the brain. Most brains are wired to have 5 very distinct senses, but sometimes the wires get crossed.
Synesthesia is a blending of the senses.
So someone with synesthesia might experience a color when they hear a sound, or smell vanilla whenever they see gravel. And there's all sorts of exotic combinations.
That may sound kind of cool, but there's one form of synesthesia that is definitely not fun. A rare condition called mirror touch, where your brain feels someone else's sensations, from a tiny itch to excruciating pain. Neurologist Joel Salinas doesn't just study this condition,
Dr. Salinas.
he's living with it and using it to help treat patients. Believe it or not. Around 4% of the population has some form of synesthesia, and there seems to be some link between this phenomenon and creativity. Billy Joel, Lord, and Pharrell are just a few of the performers who claim to hear music in color. That same ability got Vincent van Gogh kicked out of his piano lessons as a child and deemed insane. Most people only cross over between 2 senses. For Joel, it's all 5 of them.
It was my first year of medical school that I learned what synesthesia is. One night, a friend of mine who has a background in neuroscience just kind of throws into the conversation, "Hey, did you all know that there are these weird people who see colors when they hear sounds? It's like they're constantly on an acid trip." I said, "Everybody has that." And he just kind of looked at me and said, "No, that's definitely not normal."
Looking back at his own childhood, Joel began to realize his friend was right.
I always had a sense there was something different or odd about me, and I always just kind of chalked it up to being a really weird kid. Whenever I would kind of color in letters and numbers, the 1 had to be yellow, the B had to be light orange. If I were to see the numbers and letters in different colors my own, I would just assume that it was like wrong, and I would kind of like throw a fit over it.
But it was not until Joel was well into his medical training that he found out the hard way about mirror touch.
So if you are having a headache, I feel like I have a headache. If you have nausea, I feel like I have nausea. If you're gasping for air, I feel like I'm gasping for air. I feel as though I have to will myself to breathe.
Joel Salinas has an unusual superpower. His brain registers other people's sensations as if they're his own. For a medical doctor treating sick people, that's gotta mess with his mind.
I'll never forget the first time I saw a patient die. As I'm seeing this patient getting chest compressions, I feel as though I'm getting chest compressions on my own chest. I feel as though my back is on the floor. As the patient is getting a breathing tube placed down his throat, I feel a sharp object being slid down my throat. And as he's dying, I feel as though I'm losing all movements in my own body. And that moment was so intense, I had to just kind of hit out of there. Once he's dead, I feel as though I have to will myself to breathe. I went to the nearest bathroom, I threw up, had to kind of sit in front of the sink and kind of splash my face and look at myself in the mirror and remind myself, no, this is my body. I didn't die.
Empathy is one thing, but this is something far beyond.
what I see somebody else feel, physically, emotionally, my brain makes me feel as if it's happening to me at the same time. It's like my brain is automatically categorizing the people that I see as if I were looking in a mirror where they are me and I am them.
That kind of over-connectedness could have stopped Joel's career in its tracks, but he was determined to forge ahead.
I realized that if I was going to be the best doctor that I could for my patients, that I was going to have to find a way to figure this out and hopefully apply it towards helping my patients.
He credits meditation with helping him put guardrails on his own sensations.
I've really learned kind of how to manage the situations, and I've also really driven myself to really expose myself to as many extreme situations as possible, because the more I expose myself to them, it's almost like I get desensitized more to it.
Today, he's trying to harness his mirror touch to better diagnose and care for his patients.
The fact that he's able to empathize better with his patients and really get a sense for what kinds of symptoms they have, how they're feeling, I think that really improves the quality of care he can provide for his patients.
All right, can I have you follow my finger here?
Left, right.
You've had this pain
Yeah.
in this area.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel kind of a little bit of that kind of discomfort and
Yeah.
sensation up along this side, almost like
Yeah.
shooting up.
Makes me feel validated. I know that sounds strange, but like you never know when things are in your head.
I agree with you 100%. There isn't pixie dust like floating through the air and kind of informing me what's going on. It's almost like a hallucination.
I always knew that Joel was a special person, but I think this just put a whole new spin on things.
So it's never 100% exact, right? This isn't being psychic, this isn't telepathy. Being a doctor that has mirror touch, what that means to me is that I get to form a deeper connection with my patients and be a part of their pain, their suffering, and their pleasure when things go well.
There's a world within our own that seems to defy explanation. These curious cases may shock or puzzle us, but they also inspire a sense of wonder.